So, you finally did it. You bought a house in the suburbs. White picket fence, perfectly manicured lawn, 2-car garage, whole 9 yards. You're living the dream, right? That's what I thought, too. My name's Greg, and this is the story of how my little slice of paradise turned into a beige-colored battlefield, and how I went from a guy who just wanted to grill in peace to the most feared man in the neighborhood. The HOA president. It all started so innocently. We moved into Whispering Pines Estates. A name so generic, it could only be a suburb. The welcome basket from the Homeowners Association was our first clue. Tucked between the artisanal jam and a coupon for a local hardware store was a binder. A thick one. It was the HOA, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. At first, I laughed. 150 pages on how to live in my own house. Hilarious. There were rules for everything. Grass height had to be between 2 and 3 inches. Mailboxes had to be Whispering Pines beige, a specific shade you could only buy from one approved vendor. Holiday decorations could only be up for exactly 21 days. And my personal favorite, trash cans could not be visible from the street for more than 4 hours on collection day. I thought, who actually enforces this stuff? The answer came a week later. I received my first violation notice. De crime? My garden hose was coiled in a counterclockwise direction. The rules, it turned out, specified a clockwise coil for aesthetic harmony. The fine was $50. I was baffled. I went to my first HOA meeting to protest. It was held in a community center that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and quiet desperation. The board was made up of 3 people who looked like they'd been chosen for their ability to look perpetually disappointed. Primera ma de my case. I argued that the direction of a hose coil was absurd. They just stared at me with those blank, unwavering eyes. The board president, a woman named Carol, who wore a beige pantsuit that matched the walls, simply said, "The rules are the rules, Mr. Johnson." And that was that. That first fine was a gateway drug. Soon, the violations started piling up. My kids' brightly colored chalk art on the driveway, unauthorized sidewalk graffiti, a bird feeder I hung from a tree, a track's nuisance. Wildlife. I tried to plant a vegetable garden. Apparently, tomatoes were visually discordant with the neighborhood's approved floral palette. Each violation came with a fine, and a little piece of my soul died every time I wrote a check to the Whispering Pines HOA. I started talking to my neighbors, hoping to find allies. Primera, found fear. People would whisper about the board like it was some kind of shadow government. My neighbor, Dave, once got a fine because his welcome mat said howdy instead of welcome. Another family was cited because their wind chimes were deemed sonically intrusive. We were all living in a state of logrid terror, afraid to express any individuality lest it violate some obscure bylaw written in 1987. We were prisoners in our own beige. I realized that arguing was pointless. Pleading was useless. If I wanted to change things, I had to do it from the inside. I decided to run for the HOA board. My platform was simple: common sense and fewer rules about lawn ornaments. I campaigned hard. I promised freedom from the tyranny of beige. I promised people they could coil their hoses any way they wanted. It was a revolution, fought not with pitchforks, but with polite nods and promises of reasonable trash can policies. The election was a nail-biter. It came down to me and Carol, the queen of beige herself. And, to my absolute shock, I won. I was on the board. I thought my work was done. I thought I could dismantle the system from within. Oh, how naive I was. My first meeting as a board member was an eye-opener. I saw the true source of the HOA's power. Complaints. For every person like me who hated the rules, there were 10 others who weaponized them. The complaints folder was a bottomless pit of petty grievances. Mr. Henderson's sprinkler is watering 2 inches of my driveway. The Millers are having a party, and their laughter is exceeding the acceptable decibel level after 9 p.m. I saw a non-approved breed of squirrel in the Peterson's oak tree. I realized the board wasn't the source of the madness. They were just responding to it. The residents themselves were the enforcers. A network of curtain-witching spies reporting on each other's every move. At first, I tried to be the voice of reason. I'd argue against the fines. Let the man have his howdy mat, I'd say. Does the squirrel's breed really matter? But for every rule I tried to relax, I was met with a chorus of what's the point of having rules if we do unenforce them. My fellow board members weren't tyrants. They were just tired. They were worn down by the constant bickering, the endless complaints. They just wanted order. And slowly, something inside me started to shift. It began with the grass. I'd be driving home, and I'd notice Mrs. Gable's lawn was at least 3.5 inches high. It was unruly. It disrupted the clean, uniform line of the street it bethesed me. Then, I saw a flamingo. A pink, plastic flamingo standing defiantly in the middle of a lawn. It was a clear violation of Section 12, subsection C, paragraph 4. No ornamental statuary of a tropical or whimsical nature. Before I knew what I was doing, I was taking a picture. I was documenting the violation. The power was intoxicating. When a homeowner came to a meeting to complain about a fine, I found myself quoting the bylaws from memory. I heard Carol's words coming out of my mouth. The rules are the rules. I streamlined the violation process. I introduced a mobile app for reporting infractions. I created subcommittees for fence stain consistency and approved shrubbery. I was good at it. I was really good at it. The neighborhood had never looked more uniform, more orderly. The lawns were perfect green carpets. The mailboxes stood in a proud beige line. There wasn't a non-approved wind chime to be heard. A year later, Carol retired and moved to a community with even stricter rules. By unanimous vote, I was elected the new HOA president. I stood at the podium in the community center, wearing my own perfectly tailored beige pantsuit. I looked out at the faces of my neighbors. They weren't smiling. They weren't frowning. They were just compliant. I had brought order. I had created harmony. I had turned Whispering Pines Estates into the perfect, beige, soulless utopia I had once fought against. And the scariest part, I was proud. I finally understood. The dream wasn't the white picket fence or the big backyard. The dream was control. The dream was knowing that every single garden hose in a 50-block radius was coiled in a perfect, clockwise spiral. Now, if you'll excuse me, I see a trash can that's been visible for 4 hours and 1 minute. There's a rule for that, so maybe think twice before you sign that HOA agreement. Or don't. We're always looking for new members. Thanks for watching. Let me know about your own neighborhood horror stories in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more tailies from the suburbs.